Happy holidays everyone, and welcome to SMG4 Theory. I'm your host Jack, and welcome to the 7th day of the 12 Theories of Christmas event. If you haven't already, I recommend checking out the other videos after this one to support the massive effort this group has put into this project. But with that being said, let's talk about the ever-expanding appearances of Eldritch demons in the SMG4 universe. Okay, so where do we start? That's right. It's gotta be perfect. Again. So when it's gotta be perfect, the plot centers around SMG4 using some demonic keyboard he found on a sketchy pop-up ad to create his so-called perfect video. But that fails miserably when the Eldritch group spreads and consumes the entire castle. Throughout the movie, the Eldritch group ends up corrupting SMG4, SMG3, and Toad. Oh my god.
Smash.
But it's not like it matters because they'll say it by the end of the movie anyway. So yeah. Now, I'd like to quickly remind you all that the person advertised in the pop-up was, in fact, Mr. Puzzles in his adware form, obviously giving SMG4 the keyboard for his own movie's sake. This is pretty crucial information, so please keep it in mind for later. Moving on, we find ourselves at Let's Go Visit Peach. Now, there's not as much to discuss here, however, it is important to address SMG3's line.
Isn't it obvious? We left her down here to rot for too long.
Referring to Peach's corruption. This shows that even without the supposed control of someone like Mr. Puzzles pulling the strings, the demonic goo will continue to spread and expand. Now let's take a look at both Welcome to Puzzle Park and What V 2024 and their usage of the Eldritch beasts. Mr. Puzzles once again has control over the demons, using them to trap and corrupt the cast members. This included Tari, SMG3, Bob, Boopkins, Luigi, Karen, Melanie, and Psycho. Now how's that for the 12 demons of Christmas? But yeah, Mr. Puzzles essentially uses the corrupted versions of the cast to torment and torture SMG4 and Mario, as usual. However, this brings up an interesting question. How exactly does Mr. Puzzles have control over these demons? Well, I have a theory. An SMG4 theory! Sorry. If we take a look at Mr. Puzzle's backstory, we come to find that it is largely shrouded in mystery. All we really are aware of is that as a kid, he was a loner, and people like his father disregarded his dreams of running an amusement park, which caused him to be a shut-in who watched TV all day. However, he was somehow able to survive severing off his own head and replacing it with a TV, and mind you, this TV had powers of being able to suck souls into itself, while his body was also morphable on a whim. This isn't normal, not even within the wacky bounds of the reality SMG4 itself has established. This makes absolutely no sense. Unless, what if Mr. Puzzles made a deal with Satan to allow him to reach his dream of creative control? I mean, it was already shown in the episode, If Mario Was in Cuphead, that Satan is completely fine with making life-changing deals. And while he has mellowed out over the years, now being a somewhat companion to the main crew, that alleged deal with child Mr. Puzzles would have taken place years before the show even started. Now, this proves that it's in character for Satan to propose a deal, but what about Mr. Puzzles? Well, don't worry my dear viewers, there's surprisingly more evidence than you believe. Firstly, let's look at the kinds of faces Mr. Puzzles makes when he's extremely angry. Yeah, horrific, right? Well, if you look at these faces in particular, you can draw a similarity between these crazy eyes and the crazy eyes upon the Eldritch group.
Wow!
And looking at these other faces, you can see it expressing death and demonic creatures, which are obviously also key signs of the devil. Another key point of evidence that connects Mr. Puzzles and Satan is within Mario the Explorer. SMG4 and Mario are sucked back into Mr. Puzzles' head to act in another show, mimicking the likes of Dora the Explorer. When SMG4 searches his bag, which turns out to be Boopkins, Satan is there and is explicitly called out by Boopkins himself. This points to Satan's presence being due to him trying to help Mr. Puzzles get back on his feet. The most damning piece of evidence is actually within the lyrics Mr. Puzzles sings in Creative Control. Obviously, the lines,
Creative control of your real life,
align with how the demonic creatures will take over control from unsuspecting victims. However, this line in particular is associated with Mr. Puzzle's goal, so it isn't the strongest point.
I'll do anything it takes.
This line shows his utter determination to reach his goal, which implies that he would go to the lengths of making a deal with the devil. However, this final lyric is what sold me.
Creative control of your real. Grab a seat and let's seal the deal. Seal the deal.
Let's seal the deal? That's literally the catchphrase of Satan. I honestly don't know what else I even have to say. Okay, so if I've proven that Mr. Puzzles and Satan made a deal, what would the deal be exactly? Well, it's pretty obvious. In exchange for being able to morph his body, trapping people inside his new TV head for shows, and being able to control eldritch monsters, Mr. Puzzles would have to use his abilities to help corrupt the Mushroom Kingdom and its people. This was apparent to be the case after the fiasco at Peach's castle, where again, the Eldritch group spread to fill the entire cavern even without Puzzles overseeing. Also, just looking at how instant the transformation out of the castle was into being under Mr. Puzzles' control, it just shows how dangerous he can be. So, what does this mean for the cast? Well, when Mr. Puzzles eventually escapes his insane asylum, which he definitely will, by the way, it's just his plot armor, he'll venture through the depths of Peach's castle, using his demon summoning powers to speed up the process of expansion to the surface. The Eldritch group will then eventually spread to the citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom, taking over their bodies in order to serve both Satan and Mr. Puzzles. However, because of his uncooperative nature, I believe, personally, that Mr. Puzzles will eventually try to betray Satan in order to enact his own revenge on the SMG4 crew. Not sure if he'll be successful, but hey, it's worth a shot, I guess. Anywho, that's just a theory. An SMG4 theory! Thank you for watching!